My name is Athena LaTocha. I am Hunkpapa Lakota and Keweenaw Bay Ojibwe. I'm originally from Alaska. I was born in Anchorage and grew up in Eagle River, which is about 15 or so miles outside of Anchorage, about northeast of Anchorage. And currently I divide my time between Peekskill and New York City, Peekskill, New York, and New York City. I'm currently in Fargo, North Dakota, and I am working on a large-scale ink wash for the Plains Art Museum. Well, the residency is a month-long residency, and I'm in the last week of it. Got set up, we found a location for me to work. I work on the floor, so the process can be very, very wet, working with a lot of large ink pools. So it took about a little over a week to fully prep the space so that I could begin working. And during that time I went out and started researching and surveying the local area. You know, I thought I had a very good idea of where perhaps I wanted to go, thinking about where I'll be out here on, in the northern Prairie, the grasslands, the Great Plains, right? We have particular ideas about what that means or what we've learned it to be. But when we go out there and experience it, it might be a little bit different. How is it different? Is it the texture? What is the atmosphere like? What does the wind feel like? Do you incorporate those various elements into the work? For the most part, I typically look at state parks or national parks because of their that's part of their mission, preservation of these areas. And I also look at areas where humans are involved in moving earth or reclaiming earth. Having that direct immersion experience is important to what I do, and to try to get a feel for those spaces, to capture, an impression or an idea of what these experiences are like and bring that back into the studio. But then when they're back in the studio, it becomes something else too. And sometimes I have no control over that either. It's not that I want to have a control over it. I want it to make itself, and we might have a particular idea like, why is it not looking like that? Why is it, but learning to quiet that and let the work come forward. Okay, you have these areas of preservation, and you have these areas of, do we say destruction? Do we, where there's been, where here the earth is being preserved, and here it's traumatized, right? If you can say that, here it's being, transformed. In one way, there's nature transforms itself, and then humans go in and transform nature. By looking at spaces like that, it inspires my own work and how I move through and navigate the spaces that I'm creating. What's interesting about the work is a lot of times I don't go into it with preset conditions or expectations other than size, if it's for a particular place. I never intended to go out and make large scale work, but I noticed early on when I would begin making things that they always had a tendency to grow, and they always had a tendency to grow bigger than me. And it got to the point where I stopped trying to limit those ideas of trying to control the image. So the image started becoming bigger and bigger. The ink washes that I do now will be scaled up to about 10 by 40 feet. That's about the average scale. The piece that I'm working on right now, this is A little shorter than I normally do. It's 9 feet 7 inches high, and it will have a running length of about a little over 47 feet. The actual amount of time that it takes to make the work varies, and it can vary to depending on scale. So for something of this scale, it could take a month, it could take 4 months. It really depends on the processing of the ideas and the various media that I might be working with. When does a work come to life? You know, does it come to life as soon as it comes out of you, you know, and it's there on the page or there on the canvas, and is that life, you know? Or is it putting it out and then moving it around and working with it, and then it starts to transform and become something different than what your original intent is or what you originally thought it might be? It's not like I had this idea to just do this one day. It just evolved like that, where it started becoming more and more textured, more and more imbued, I guess, with a sense of life and history. It's developing its own self in many ways. You know, to get to that stage where I feel the work is just starting to wake up, sometimes it can be a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3 weeks. Hopefully not too late. But sometimes it takes its own time. And a lot of it has to do with perhaps how comfortable I am in the space, or how rooted, or how, you know, what the conditions are that allow for the making of the work. You know, all these things have an effect. And a lot of it essentially comes down to how much time are you giving it? You know, are you with it every day and giving it, you know, as much time every day and being as present as you can for the work? Some of my favorite tools are to paint and draw with are found steel radial tire shred. And a lot of them I'm picking up off the side of highways, and they can range anywhere between, you know, this big to 4 to 5 feet in length. So a couple ounces up to 20, 30 pounds. You know? A lot of the tools they make their own system of marks that are not always predictable. So what I might be able to predict is the steel radial is going to cut and shred. You know, how or specifically where is difficult to isolate. How the tire tread mark will be introduced to the surface of whatever the support is, sometimes that can be kind of ballparked, but it's not a precision instrument. and that is something that I enjoy, and what I find it intriguing because you don't have the same kind of mastery, and you're really opening up the realm of possibilities and defying expectations, defying your own personal expectations, what you think the work might be or should be. And I think for me, I think that's where the work starts getting exciting. You know, so every work is unique, and every work starts differently, every work ends differently, and there's different experiences and circumstances that have brought that to be. There's a few things that I hope people walk away with. What is it to be in the presence of something bigger than oneself? You know, working on a monumental scale, it brings back those ideas of self and selflessness, and hopefully presents a sense of humility. You know, what is it to be next to something bigger than oneself? Ultimately, I have no idea. The piece that I'm working on now will be installed in the lobby of the Plains Art Museum, and it will be on exhibit there through September.